My father stood up, raised his glass, and said, "I'm handing over Martinez and Sons to someone who truly earned it. My son, Daniel." 8 years I'd worked there. 8 years, and my name didn't even come up. My brother leaned over and whispered, "Guess they figured out who the real talent is." That's when I realized I'd been invisible my whole life. My name's Emma. I'm 26, and I'd just been erased in front of my entire family. I started at Martinez and Sons when I was 18. Warehouse shifts, inventory logs, heavy lifting in the summer heat. I worked my way up to managing client accounts and logistics. I knew every supplier, every contract, every margin. My brother Daniel? He's 29, charismatic, business school grad, dad's favorite. While I handled operations, he played golf with clients and posted motivational quotes on LinkedIn. I wasn't flashy or loud, but I knew that business inside and out. My mom passed when I was 15. She was the only one who ever really saw me. After that, it was just Dad, Daniel, and me. Dad always said, "when the time comes," but he never clarified who'd inherit what. I pitched ideas, eco-friendly materials, modern logistics systems. Every single one got shut down. "Too risky, Emma." "Not the right time. Let's stay with what works." But when Daniel suggested we rebrand the website, Dad loved it. I wanted to expand the business, modernize it, make it mine. Instead, I spent years trying to prove I mattered. If you've ever been overlooked by your own family, subscribe right now and tell me where you're watching from. Because what happened next changed everything. The announcement happened at an upscale restaurant downtown. Uncles, aunts, cousins, everyone was there. White tablecloths, candles, a private room with dark wood paneling. Dad stood at the head of the table and gave this long speech about legacy, vision, and sacrifice. I actually thought, maybe, just maybe, it'd be a joint leadership thing. You know, both of us running it together. Then he said it. "I'm turning over full ownership to Daniel, effective immediately." The room erupted. Applause. Cheers. Someone clinked a glass. I sat frozen. My Aunt Maria leaned in close, smiling. "Well, honey, it makes sense. Men just understand business differently." I couldn't even respond. After dinner, I pulled Dad aside in the hallway near the restrooms. "Dad, can we talk about this?" He patted my shoulder. "Emma, you've been great support, but Daniel has the vision to lead. You can stay on. He'll need a strong manager." "I've been managing half the operations for 3 years." "Exactly. That's what we need. Someone reliable in the background." Daniel walked up, grinning. "Don't worry, sis. I'll take care of you. You'll keep your job." I tried to keep my voice steady. "What about my client relationships? The proposals I've been working on?" "Those clients trust the Martinez name. That's me now." Then he dropped it. Casual, like it was nothing. "Oh, and I'm bringing in Jason as COO. You remember Jason, right? College buddy, super sharp. You'll move back to client services. Still important, just more your speed." COO was my role. I didn't say anything. I just nodded. I sat in my car in that parking lot for 20 minutes, hands shaking. I pulled out my notebook. Years of plans, supplier contacts I'd personally built, strategies I'd drafted at midnight. Right then, I decided something. If they wouldn't see my worth, someone else would. A week later, Daniel held a transition meeting. He ordered cheap pizza for the staff. Greasy, cold by the time it arrived. Everyone gathered in the conference room. Daniel stood at the front. "All right, team, exciting changes ahead. I'm bringing in some fresh energy." He introduced Jason, tall, confident, expensive watch. "Jason's coming on as COO, looking forward to fresh eyes and fresh strategies." I was sitting in the back. Jason sat down at the head of the table. I saw it immediately. My proposal documents, the ones I'd spent months on, sitting right there on his desk. Wait, those are my... Daniel cut me off. Company property, Emma. We're all one team here, right? The room went silent. No one looked at me. That kind of humiliation doesn't need an audience to speak. The silence does it for you. A month later, it got worse. Daniel pitched my eco-materials expansion plan to the board. Word for word, my plan. I was there, as the note-taker. Uncle Tom, one of the board members, nodded along. Daniel, this is brilliant. I wish your sister had this kind of innovative thinking. My pen cracked in my hand. After the meeting, I cornered Daniel in his office. That was my proposal. He didn't even blink. You had years to pitch it. You didn't. I executed. That's business. Because Dad shut me down every time I tried. Then maybe you weren't persuasive enough. He leaned back in his chair. Besides, you still have a job. Be grateful. I started working on my own plan that night. I used my personal contacts, suppliers I'd worked with for years. I filed an LLC, quiet, on my own time. But somehow, Dad found out. 2 weeks later, he called me into his office. Daniel was already there. I knew it was bad. We have a non-compete, Emma. You can't solicit our clients. These are my own contacts. Daniel jumped in. Anything you built while working here is ours. Dad crossed his arms. You need to stop this side work. Or resign. Daniel smirked. Come on, Emma. You really think you'd make it on your own? I didn't sleep that night. But I didn't cry either. I calculated. I pulled up my records. 3 key suppliers who trusted me. $50,000 in savings. A deep knowledge of every gap in the market. They thought they'd cornered me. They'd actually just set me free. What they didn't know was I'd been preparing for this my whole career. Even when I didn't realize it. 6 months before the announcement, I'd started documenting everything. Inefficiencies, missed opportunities. Every time Daniel screwed up and I fixed it quietly. I built supplier relationships on my personal phone, my personal email. One of them, Rita, ran a woman-owned recycling firm. She told me once, Emma, you should run your own company. I'd back you in a heartbeat. I'd been creating my own network for years. Client records, contracts I'd saved, all stored on my personal Google Drive. 3 suppliers had privately complained about working with Daniel. A contractor named Miguel texted me one night, If you ever go solo, I'm your first call. I'd even taken night courses, business finance, LLC setup, digital marketing, paid for them out of pocket. Dad and Daniel thought I was just being diligent. I was building an exit strategy. I met Rita at a coffee shop across town. Small place. Quiet. She slid a folder across the table. I've been in this business 20 years. Your brothers all talk. You're all action. She offered to be my first supplier. Competitive rates, exclusive sustainable materials. Next, I called Miguel. I only stayed with Martinez because of you, he said. Let's build something better. I filed the LLC that week. Summit Supply Solutions. I rented a small warehouse, used my $50,000 savings as startup capital. Then I walked into Dad's office and handed him a printed letter. I resign, effective immediately. Daniel laughed when he heard. She'll come crawling back in 3 months. Dad told Uncle Tom at Sunday dinner. Some people just aren't built for risk. Aunt Maria shook her head. Poor Emma, too stubborn to know her limits. They stopped inviting me to family events. Daniel posted on Instagram, honored to carry forward the family legacy. I worked 80-hour weeks, landed my first contract with Miguel, $200,000 a year. 6 months in, $500,000 in revenue. 1 year, $2 million. Daniel heard rumors. He dismissed them as exaggeration. Uncle Tom saw my company in a trade magazine and texted my dad. Dad brushed it off. Probably inflated numbers. Then I got the call. A major regional developer wanted to meet. $5 million contract. 3-year deal. They were also meeting with Martinez and Sons. When Daniel found out, he called me screaming. "You're sabotaging your own family." I stayed calm. "I'm competing. Isn't that what you taught me business was?" The developer held the final presentation meeting downtown. I walked in wearing a tailored navy suit, portfolio in hand. My team behind me. Daniel and Dad were already seated at the table. Shock flashed across both their faces. Daniel whispered to Dad, "There's no way she can actually..." I didn't let him finish. I stood up and started my presentation, confident, clear, data-backed. I showed a 30% cost reduction using sustainable supply partnerships, faster delivery, better vendor reliability, testimonials from Miguel and 3 other contractors. Summit Supply isn't just materials, I said. It's partnerships built on trust and results. The developer asked tough questions. I answered every single one. Then it was Daniel's turn. He leaned heavy on legacy. Martinez and Sons, trusted for 40 years. The developer cut him off. "That's your father's legacy. What's yours?" Daniel stumbled. He tried using my old proposal language, but he had no data to back it up. Jason jumped in with buzzwords and jargon. It made things worse. Their presentation fell flat. After the meeting, I waited by the elevator. Dad approached. "You didn't have to take it this far." I looked him in the eye. "I went exactly as far as you taught me. You said business is execution. But we're family. You made it clear I wasn't family. Not in the way that mattered." Daniel walked over. "You're really doing this out of spite?" "I'm doing this because I'm good at it. You just never looked long enough to see." 1 week later, the developer called. Summit Supply Solutions won the contract. $5 million over 3 years. They cited innovation, reliability, and vision. 18 months later, my company was valued at $10 million. I was featured in a regional magazine, 30 Under 30, Builders of Tomorrow. Full interview, photo spread. Dad saw it in a waiting room. He read my quote. "The best thing my family ever did was underestimate me. It gave me something to prove. To myself." Daniel's business started losing clients. Momentum stalled. Uncle Tom reached out quietly, asking for consulting advice. I smiled. "I'm sure Daniel has it under control." I didn't gloat. I just kept building. I hired a diverse team, promoted work-life balance, started a mentorship program for women in construction. Dad asked to meet for coffee a few months later. "I was wrong about you," he said. "You were wrong about what mattered." He hinted at collaboration. I shook my head. "I'm already working, just not for you." I ran into Daniel at an industry conference last month. Brief eye contact. He looked away first. And that's when I realized something. For once, their silence didn't hurt me. It freed me. I bought my own home, took my team on a retreat. I planted a tree at the warehouse in my mom's memory. I finally understood I never needed their approval. I just needed to approve of myself. If this story hit home, I need you to do something. Hit subscribe and drop a comment. Have you ever had to prove yourself to people who doubted you? Tell me what happened. I read every single comment. Your story matters. Whether you're in Seattle or Singapore, let me know where you're watching from. And if you're still fighting to be seen, keep going. They'll notice, but more importantly, you'll notice yourself. Thanks for being here. See you next time.